Hello and welcome to another video from the Fantasy Legion. Alan Sean back again.
It's good to be back, Al. Yeah, very good. And what are we doing today now, Al?
This is sort of part two of our... we did the sort of review of the picks 1 to 16 of the...
Yeah, it wasn't a very nice review, was it? When you start looking at
there's
Cole
some
like
real issues with the top 16 picks. So if you haven't seen that, go back and watch that because you need to know this. There's a lot going on. Whether it's
a lot of people will be drafting now, won't they?
Nagging injuries, fallouts with the team. There's all sorts going on. So go back and check that out. This is pick 17 to 32, and it's still murky, let me tell you. So you need to know this stuff. Okay, so number 17 is a tight end. We're not normally a fan of taking tight ends early, unless it's a really sort of small league where, you know, every sort of
position counts kind of thing.
This is Travis Kelce. He has been sort of tight end one for the last year. He didn't have a great year last year, to be honest.
Trouble is if you're taking him in the second round, we always say I keep it simple. So for reference, again, if you're new to our videos, 180 points second round for standard, half point you're looking at about 220, 4 point you're looking at round about 260 roughly to guide your points you want to score. That's what he's got to do, Travis Kelce. He didn't even get the 180 in standard last year, so that tells you he didn't hit the other metrics for the other leagues. I can't see him getting 180. I think he's an excellent tight end. I don't think there's any problem with being tight end number one. The problem is, as Al rightly points out right at the beginning of the video, unless it's a small league, 8-team, 10-team league maybe, where positional advantage might be important, there's just no need to try.
I've still seen everyone talks him up every year, take him in the first round. I mean, I've seen people posting drafts saying they took him in the first round.
And you know what the truth is as well, Al, the bigger the league, as you know, the bigger the league is. So if you go up a little bit bigger scale, 14, 16 team, that position advantage absolutely is minuscule. And the other problem is that the position that becomes very scarce is running backs really quickly because obviously the injuries and turnover and everything else that happens to them. So if you miss on this pick, that means you didn't take a running back, then you've missed somewhere else as well. So it's a hugely compounding problem you get in fantasy. So just thought I'd throw that in there as you discuss
maybe small leagues only. Okay. So pick 18 is Kenyon Drake. He's been in the walking boots.
Well, the good news is I still believe in the talent. I've always said, and it's in the draft guide, please do. I have to refer back to it. It's very important to remind people is Kenyon Drake and Chase Edmonds are the pair to own. If you're going after Kenyon, because I've got a red flag on him, for exactly the reasons he's in a walking boot.
Yeah, he never finishes a season. That's
obviously, I want to own the pair. Now, luckily, the good news is apparently he's running around on the sideline, and that's great. But I'd like to see him actually in practice.
Someone said apparently he was in a walking boot this time last year as well. So maybe
that's right. Yeah,
maybe he just likes.
I don't know what some people have. Some people do have issues, but I'd like to hope that we don't see this walking boot repetitively worn during the year because he's injured. It's a worry. So you need to draft accordingly. If you're going for Kenyon, great, but try to get the pair. And it's not guaranteed that it's Chase Edmonds. I'm going on gut feeling, intuition, and what I've already seen in the NFL. There is a case for Benjamin.
They did say on any other team, Chase Edmonds would be the starting running back, which is an interesting thing to say.
And don't forget this. That's
about your own.
There's a very, very good point you raised because people forget this, right? So we've just seen Leonard Fournette go, right? Naturally, people will think maybe the Jaguars will pick a running back up. They might. But what the Jags could do, if they just want to stabilise their core, is take a player like Chase Edmonds, put a bid in for him, get him, bring him in. Could happen. There's things like that can still happen, making Chase Edmonds even more valuable.
Go for a cheaper option, like Miami did with Breeder. We saw that last year.
Exactly. So things like that could happen because he's a very talented guy, Chase. We've seen that because when he's had his small sample size of work, he's been incredibly efficient using that sample size. He looks the real deal. As you always say, does he meet your eye test? And the truth is, if you take your own specs off and think about it from other people looking at it, he's a very good player.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. And you can get Chase Edmonds late as well.
Very late, yeah.
Even in bigger leagues. Right, okay. Number 19, we're back to another tight end. George Kittle just got paid by San Francisco 49ers.
Again, for same reasons.
Every wide receiver the 49ers have had
has died.
Or any receiver, I should say.
That was a bit harsh. Injured, not died.
Yeah, I mean, Dejo was out 10 to 12 weeks. He got injured, a month ago. So, they're still worried that he'll be ready, even 6 weeks in. So you have to bear that in mind with him. Kittle also has a tight hamstring. They've held him out. They got in, what's his name? The JJ, the guy.
Aguero Whiteside.
No. The one that used to play for Arizona, JJ Nelson.
JJ Nelson.
They got him in. Yeah. He's injured. Right. They got Kevin White in there. I mean, that's how many people have been dying. Tavon Austin and Kevin White are now on this roster.
That says it all.
The rookie Brandon Ayuk got injured. He's been carrying an injury.
I mean, you could argue that that's pretty much all they've got as a receiving core. Therefore, he's going to get peppered all day. But the problem is that's the easy argument. The problem is the tight end also has to be a block. A good tight end has to be able to block for the running game of the quarterback.
He's a very good blocker as well.
And if you haven't got a receiving core that the opponents, remotely are interested in, then they can afford to take some, gambling blitzes. They can afford to gamble a bit. And that means the tight end has to be involved more, which means he's not going to be used down the field much. So this could have an impact on Kittle, and I won't be paying second-round price for any tight end, no matter what the league size, frankly.
Yeah, especially
I still believe our draft guide, like it did last year, has the sneaky tight end picks to own this season. I really believe we'll look back next year and go, wow, that was another great list of tight ends we chose.
Well, let's hope so. Number 20, Chris Godwin. He's been sitting out practices. He's missed 3, which Bruce Arians said, asked why he's missing practice. He said, that's for me to know and you to find out.
Lovely. Okay. Yeah, that's great. That's great. That's brilliant fantasy news. Yeah, no, I mean, those sort of things never bode you with any kind of confidence. I mean, I'm assuming it's minor because I've heard nothing more, but it does concern you. It does concern you because, we're edging ever so close now to a point where, you want your players on the field at least to see them week 1. I mean, the hardest scenario is you've drafted a player and he doesn't even start the season off. That's the worst feeling in the world.
I think Godwin will have a really good year, actually, with Brady.
I do. I do. I've warmed dramatically to their opportunity as an offense. I mean, I've liked it anyway, but it just looks very, very good on paper.
Okay, on to 21. For an early QB, Patrick Mahomes, obviously dislocated his knee last year, but when healthy, I mean, there's no one better, is there? Especially at throwing the ball. You could argue semantics with Lamar being better all round as a runner and a fantasy.
There are. I can't advocate based on logic. I can't advocate in any consciousness of taking quarterbacks early. But if I had to make one case for one guy, I keep making it, is him, Patrick Mahomes. The only guy I would dare do it to. But I'd take the risk in smaller money leagues, or friendly family leagues. I wouldn't take the risk in any large league where there's a big amount of money to be done, because it could end your draft before it even begins if it goes wrong, because quarterbacks don't always work out. But I think you've seen how great this guy is. We saw what he could do last year and how well he was when he came back. He was unbelievable. The only player I've ever seen who can throw a ball sidearm 35, 40 yards. I've never seen anything like that before. Remarkable. His vision, his downfield ability to spot blitzes, his audibles, his cadences, his logic. The team around him is just dynamic. He's now got the power of the owners are listening to what he wants in the team. Speaks volumes of where he is as a player.
He got a 10-year deal, didn't he? So,
he speaks volumes.
The future of the team, really.
He set the precedent other teams will have to match, and he set the market. And your people will look back in 5, because they'll renegotiate that deal in 5 years, no doubt about it. But he's so clever. That is such a clever deal in so many ways. I really like it, both for the team, for him, and what it does to their opponents around them, trying to renegotiate contracts for quarterbacks. As you know, as a Dallas fan, how the impact that even this deal was that. Had to do it. Has to be done.
We haven't done a deal. Oh, dear. Right. Anyway, that's a different story. On to number 22, Kenny Golladay. I mean, he's proven himself to be almost bomb-proof. I mean, last year he was playing with, terrible quarterback play, pretty much. David Blau.
He had nobody really throwing him to the ball. He still produced. He was brilliant when Matthew Stafford was in there. He was brilliant when he wasn't in there. I mean, the guy is brilliant. But the trouble is now you're paying the top price for his. He's
going above people like DeAndre Hopkins now. Expert.
I'm not comfortable, if I'm honest. The gambling part that you've taught me is, as much as it is a safe pick. Don't get me wrong. You can take Kenny Golladay here and feel very safe about doing it. The trouble is, it is just safe. And fantasy, there is a need for that. So I mean, like if I take and say, I don't know, somebody like CH in the first round, I'm swinging back round. Maybe I need a safe player. Kenny Golladay's a pretty good safe bet here. So if I've taken a bit of a risk already, then maybe I play play a bit safer.
And in the draft he's actually fallen below 22 anyway. So and then he becomes more valuable. So
yeah, he does.
You get more value. Obviously,
I'm not again another player, not doubting the talent or anything at all. Just think probably it's like you've got to deliver 180 fantasy points. It's hard to see him, easily surpassing that. You might get close to it, and he might slightly go over it, but none of that's exciting. I think this is where the ceiling lies at the moment.
Well, that's what I mean. I think when you play fantasy, you've got to swing for the fences, haven't you? If it goes wrong, it goes wrong. But you've got to look for people who can outperform their value, basically, their ADP.
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely.
Most of the time. I mean, if you're taking loads of risk elsewhere, then it's all right to take a safe player. But
but solid.
He's safe and solid, but not spectacular, perhaps. But okay. 23. We just mentioned him, DeAndre Hopkins. He sat out a lot of preseason, actually early preseason, with a hamstring injury. So probably hasn't had the time yet he needs with Kyler Murray.
There's a few things where I think I'm not doubting the talent. Again, I'm just doubting the situation. I mean, it's 180 fantasy points for DeAndre Hopkins to land. I'm pretty certain he's pretty good for, in standard. I'm pretty certain he's pretty good for that 150, 160 range. It's just that, is this another safe-ish pick? Is it okay? Or could it be actually a bit worse than we think, where we hope he's going to give us 180, but actually only delivers 140 or 120 because he's a brand new team for him. He's learning. It takes a while for him to gel with the quarterback. Perhaps they don't gel as well as people think. There's quite a few unknowns here. I'd be a little bit concerned personally. I just think, again, depending on league size, big league, I wouldn't be swinging for this player. Smaller league, maybe. But I'd be very cautious as how I'm actually taking him this year. I like the guy, massive fan of his skill set. It's just that I need to see what he does there a little bit. I think
Hopkins was a first-round player in the past, so you're now getting him at 23. So there is
some value
upside there. I look at Arizona, I look at their receivers, and I think, is there going to be one main receiver, or are there going to be a bit of all of them? Because you've got people like Larry Fitzgerald, he's a legend, never drops a pass. You've got Christian Kirk up and coming. They've just come out and said Andy Isabella's going to be used more, especially in the slot. So, there's a lot of targets there. Dan Arnold's nailed down the tight end one job, possibly. It's just trying to break down. I mean, how much is he going to pass and how much is he going to run as well? I mean,
it's just not as exciting as you think. It sounds great because the name carries a lot of fantasy weight. Of course, it does a very good player. It's just, I think, if we're being honest and we put our analytical heads on, it's going to be hard for him to achieve 180. So you've got to ask the question, how far short does he fall? And that's a worry. You're taking a player with no upside. I'm not keen on it. So I'd be swinging to someone else here.
If he fell a bit more, then I'd probably be all over him, to be honest.
I'd be very interested in the third round. If he was in a third round of someone's draft, sure.
I know, number 24, probably a bit disrespected, actually. Austin Eckler. He's always, he's year on year, he's improved his volume, he's improved his fantasy points. His role in the team's grown.
And he's improved, his physique.
Really, I mean, he's got Jackson and he's got Joshua Kelly as competition, and they're not really. I mean, Kelly is a bigger back, so
he got over 200 fantasy points last year. He's got nobody to beat out this year. He looks very explosive and dynamic. He's really, really bulked up for the season ahead. He looks in tremendous condition. I mean, reports of conditioning on him. Unbelievable.
He's all muscle. He's like 90% muscle. So.
He has really worked hard to keep his speed and fitness levels at their peak at the right time. I've got high confidence for him. I want him to do well. I'm rooting for him. He's a little underdog, really, in a way. I think he can deliver more than this value. So second round, he seems quite a bit of a steal to me.
So pick 24. He's actually been going early in that. He's been going.
I think he's
16, 17, 18 in the drafts I've been doing. So
I certainly believe he can give you above 180 or 220 or 240, depending on how you look at it. I think he's pretty good for it. So I'd be yes.
Although I don't think they're going to be a great team, the Chargers, this year. So I mean, the game scripts might be bad, but then if they're throwing, he's ideal for the receiving back role, isn't he? So
yeah, exactly. His skill set's good for it, no matter what the game script. So I think that's another reason.
Especially more valuable in PPR as always. So if you can get him anywhere near 24 in PPR, get it. 25. He's probably another player that's a bit disrespected. I think it's back-to-back 1,000-yard rushing seasons. Chris Carson, he's missed a bit of camp due to he's had multiple deaths in the family, which is really unfortunate. But he's back now. They came out the other day and said a perennial sort of party pooper, fantasy football spoiler, Carlos Hyde was probably going to have a bigger role than normal. DJ Dallas has made some nice.
No, the honest answer is that Chris Carson is a Seattle fan favourite / coach favourite. While that coach is there and while those fans are there and supporting their team, Chris Carson is very well loved.
Fans there.
Well,
yeah, no, I get what you mean.
He is very well loved in Seattle. He is a very steady player for 200 fantasy points every single year. If you doubt him, that's your choice. The only issue that hangs over, and rightly so, is it was a hip injury, and that's a serious thing for a running back. It's a very serious issue there. We don't know what condition he's in coming back from that injury and how it's affected him.
We do, actually. We do. We know he's in good shape. I mean, at least fitness-wise. He has worked on the injury.
Yes,
he's got himself into great shape.
We haven't seen, what I mean by this is I agree with that, but we haven't seen him in that football mode where you're getting, banged about a bit on a week-to-week basis, how he holds up under that. I'm optimistic because I've seen what he's like. He's a tough guy. His biggest issue rubbing the NFL has always been the fumbles, but luckily he's in Seattle. They don't care. Other teams might, but Seattle don't seem so interested in it. It hasn't cost him his job. And I think he's good for another year of production, to be honest, Chris Carson. And if he does stumble, then sure, Carlos Hyde can come in and, muddy that backfield.
As he does
but at
every
the moment,
year somewhere.
But at the moment, it's Chris Carson's, and we'll see how it plays out.
Okay, on to number 26. That's Mike Evans. He's probably, he's never let anyone down in a fantasy season. He's always pretty solid. He's always pretty good for his points.
Yeah.
He's a great player. He's only fallen because people don't know if Brady can throw deep. But apparently they've been putting in more plays where Evans gets utilised closer to the line. So
yeah, I've seen that, and that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I think my optimism for Evans' production is rising as the season approaches, which is unfortunate because I've already drafted quite a lot heavily everywhere, which is a shame because I do like Mike Evans. He's one of my, I've got a man crush, one of these man crush fantasy things. You do like the guy, he always delivers. I think it's good value here. I think he's probably pretty safe, and I think in most leagues he'll deliver on his value. So if you want 180 points, he'll get you that this year. I think that team looks primed for big numbers. I think Evans is going to definitely benefit from what they're doing and the movement that they're going to have on him and the way they're going to operate him. I think he's going to be used as a traditional sort of what I call the Y receiver rather than the traditional X. So they'll let Godwin do a lot more of that alpha male stuff, giving Mike Evans some stuff where he can come up underneath, try to get a ball and then take on a different, a safety, and he can beat them. He can beat people. If he beats anybody, he's gone. This guy.
Well, Mike Evans is really good
like
at football, and if you think of why the old veterans like Tom Brady and Bruce Arians aren't going to worked out that he's a good player and getting involved, then
yeah, he's solid. He's pretty safe for the points. I like the pick here. I wouldn't have any problem taking him.
No, me neither. Okay,
I've warmed a lot.
A second quarterback. Obviously Lamar Jackson. He almost changed the league last year with the way he ran the ball. People called him almost a Madden cheat code where he could just do all sorts.
Well, they say this, and there's no doubt in the guy who's very talented. But I have to keep reminding people, I've been around the league enough to know, there have been a lot of mobile quarterbacks, and actually there have been some very successful ones. Michael Vick. A lot of people won't know him really.
Well, he's the one that set the precedent for it, isn't he?
But I watched him play, and everybody thought that would be this would be the league-changing thing. The problem is that for Michael Vick had an Achilles heel. We're going to find out what Lamar's is. And the Achilles heel isn't that people could stop the running game. They couldn't stop Michael Vick really running. But what they did is pretty much what's going to happen to Lamar. They put a corral around him. What happens then is the quarterback has to throw more and into areas where he's not comfortable. And I think this is what we're about to find out now. If Lamar is as good as everybody thinks, he'll take a step forward. You'll see his yards improving quite dramatically in terms of passing yards. And it doesn't then matter so much on the running game. He'll still get his traditional 600, 700, 800, or maybe even 1,000 again. Who knows? But that's a big ask, particularly with the way the league evolves and adapts. I think it's quite tough to ask that from anybody. And the risks to a quarterback running the ball should never be underrated. It's one of the biggest risks going. And, he looked amazing.
He's actually had a hamstring injury in camp as well.
Yeah, he looked amazing last year. There were moments where you thought, oh, my God, he's about to get absolutely smashed to the ground. Yeah. And he would somehow, the tackle would be missed, or it would just go over his body.
Yeah,
or
he's just elusive, isn't he?
He just looked like he had a sixth sense for it. And that is wonderful. But I know all the time with this, your sixth sense eventually runs out and you do get battered. So I have concerns. I don't think he can deliver back on these. This is ridiculous to think he's going to do it again this year. It's just too much to ask. It rarely ever happens.
There's so much upside with how much running he does do. Every year they're going to say, we're going to limit his running a bit more. But, if the game's on the line, they're going to do it. Like you say, defense coaches and all their staff have had a year's worth of tape on Lamar, and they'd have studied it. What worked against him? What did the Titans do?
And you know what?
They'll all do it.
You know what? This is why I keep saying this. It will come back. You're going to come back in a year. People are going to look at this and go, I keep saying this. This is why they brought in J.K. Dobbins. Out of all the running backs, all the rookies in there, there was one guy that fitted like a glove. I mean, I hoped there was two teams I think Dobbins could have gone to, which I would have gone absolute spot on. That would have been Kansas and Ravens. The Ravens got him, and he's the perfect counter to any kind of corral system because he is just beautiful at catching the ball, and his route running and his movement and the little things he does are going to really help them break that corral. So I think he could be a really big asset in a year or so. It'll depend on how much development he gets this year working along Mark Ingram. I have high hopes for him, but I think it's going to take a while to break in.
Yeah.
And they're going to have to use these running backs because they can't afford to risk Lamar, taking these kind of risks. It's a big risk. So we'll see with the Baltimore Ravens. Great team, great opportunity. I've no doubt they're going to go close. It's just teams will adapt and evolve. And, I'm sorry to say, it's horrible to say it, but if a team can get a hit on a quarterback, they're going to do it. And I mean a legit hit, fair hit, but they're going to take those chances.
So they're going to look for ways. No hits on his legs. And stuff.
They're going to look for ways to get those opportunities, and that means create a corral, force him into areas to throw he doesn't want to, and if he does roll out, you're going to get some bodies on him. That's
what I would say is I actually love Lamar Jackson, and if he can come out this season and do as well as he did last year, then he's going to be one of the greats because they'll have looked at it and how to stop him, and he'll have proved he can beat anything. And that would be amazing to see. I really hope that, for the record, I hope that happens.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, of course.
Number 28. He's he's almost interlinked with you in many ways.
Right. Who's this?
Well, I'm sure you loved him in 2017-18, but we're talking about Todd Gurley. You said beware, he's not going to be the same player. He sort of got through the season okay due to touchdowns, but it was obvious that his yards per carry were down. He didn't look the same player. He was limping. He's already been limping in Atlanta, but now they're saying he's actually looking really, really good. Todd Gurley. Are you buying at 30? Sorry, 28?
No. I just keep warning you. Last year was great. Well done to him. My hat is off. You beat the bold prediction. Congratulations, Todd Gurley. Well done. But, we went through it afterwards. As much as it's a success story, if you picked him up, you took the gamble as a fantasy owner. Well done for cashing in. You could see he was not the same player. And his average of his yards fell from 4.1 down to 3.5. That's a really dangerous. You're reaching 3.5 as yards per carry. Very concerning. Rams' offense was a very good offense, and yet Gurley could only average 3.5. Now, Atlanta's is also a good offense, but I've got massive concerns, particularly with the kind of locations they play in, with the kind of injury history he's currently got. I'm not sure this is going to end up very well for him. We'll see. He's cashed in. He's made good money wherever he's gone. But I am not buying him at all.
And he's getting a year deal as well, which is...
I am just expecting at some point the implosion that is Todd Gurley. It's just a question of when.
Okay. All right. Okay. 29, another tight end. We're big fans of tight ends on here, Jules.
Yeah, aren't we, at this price?
Yeah, Mark Andrews.
Look,
he was on our super tight end.
Yeah, and that's the perfect time to own him, wasn't it?
I had some good shares of him last year.
This year.
I won't have any this year.
Look, he's very good. It's a very good team. He'll get touchdowns, definitely. Probably more valuable, strangely, in standard than probably PPR leagues, I think, Mark Andrews. I think he's very good for 8 to 10 touchdowns again this year. I believe that. But the problem is this is a very high price to play for a tight end that's not going to get the catch
so it's
volume.
top 3 rounds in most leagues, isn't it?
I just can't pay that price because there's no guarantees he's going to deliver me. At 28, that's still potentially all right. Maybe it's my third player, but I want him a little later than this if I'm taking any shares in tight ends. I'm sorry, I still believe I can get myself a tight end that's going to produce very similar numbers, and if it does miss, it might only miss by 30, 40 points in fantasy, and I've only had to pick my tight end 8 to 10 rounds later. I feel more confident doing that than I do taking tight ends this high up the board.
Yeah, I never take a tight end or a QB early, obviously unless it's super flex, but obviously that's different.
Indeed. So it's a strong pass.
Right, so we've got murky waters. More ahead, AJ Brown. He limped out of practice, I think, on Friday.
So many already, isn't it?
He didn't practice all week, Saturday, Sunday. Obviously, we're recording this on the Monday, so it's a bit. I mean, 3 practices. If he continues to miss them, it becomes a real worry. Obviously,
well, at the moment, obviously, it's day to day. The problem is, these hamstring injuries so easy to reoccur, and in a reoccurring hamstring, you're talking a player missing 1 or 2, weeks. And suddenly 1 or 2 or 3 weeks is a bit of a season, and then it becomes more of a problem. I'm really concerned. And I think, again, the time to own AJ Brown was when the value was a lot lower down the board. Now, I really like the guy. I have got massive high hopes for him for this season to kick on again. But, it does start worrying me when I see this stuff this close to the season. I get edgy. But
Let's talk about the Titans for a minute, because what are their receiving options? Adam Humphries is sitting out as well. He's injured. Corey Davis has been injured and always injured and perennially rubbish. You've got AJ Brown. Obviously, they got rid of Delaney Walker. I mean, what do you see? They've got to market. He's gone.
There's not a lot.
Who are they throwing to? They've got to throw to somebody.
There's not a lot, and you're not throwing it to your running back either. So, it is a problem. I mean, I'm hoping he's okay because I really like him, and I think if he is healthy, he could finish inside the top 7 wide receivers this year. AJ Brown is very capable. He looked amazing, the real deal last year. I'm excited to see what he can do this year, and he's going to certainly be used. If he's healthy, he's going to be peppered all day long. So
and Corey Davis, what happens if he's out? Corey Davis, is he a player? Can we ever trust Corey Davis?
Can you trust him for any more than a game or so? And would you know which game to put him in, even if it looked obvious to play him?
I know which game to put him in. I'll tell you which one. None of them.
Week 17.
No, none. None of them. Don't put him in.
Yeah.
Avoid. To be honest, if AJ Brown misses time, they've got to throw to somebody.
They do. Yeah, you're right. Somebody's got to be the beneficiary. But boy, I don't want to pick that one apart.
I just don't know who it would be. I mean, it's got to be.
That says it all. God, this is a grim 32. We're not quite there yet, but who's next?
All right. What are your favourites? The very inconsistent, sometimes brilliant Amari Cooper. Obviously plays for the best team in football.
Okay. The simple problem is that, look, can Amari Cooper get you 180 in standard, and therefore, by definition, can he hit the numbers in half point and full point PPR? No, he won't. Will he score about 160? Probably, yeah. But the problem is that he'll do it in 4 or 5 games for the whole season. It's ridiculous to say this, but if you go back, I mean, this is not a fluke. It is absolutely factual now. Just break the tapes down of the last few years with Amari Cooper. There are always, in every season, 3 to 5 really amazing games where he literally hands your fantasy team a win, which sounds great. The other games are rubbish. I mean, so bad you don't even know why he was out there. And you try picking which games that's going to be, because it's a nightmare.
I'd say which games it normally is. I mean, he does pick up injuries, but he tends to be a lot better at home than he is on the road.
Right. Well, there's a clue. If you can use him on the home games and avoid him in his away games.
To be honest, I think he was pretty good till he picked up the injury and then he was getting. But he always gets all the best cornerbacks.
In fantasy, consistency is such a key word. He just isn't it. I mean, probably in real life. I've enjoyed watching him in real life, but not just for fantasy. But so inconsistent for me. I just try and avoid him like the plague. But I don't. He's not giving you back your 180. That's for sure. So no.
Oh, that's upsetting.
It's going well, isn't it? It's going well.
Well, the next one. This is one of our viewers very keen on Allen Robinson. He's at 32. He's had a minor ankle injury in camp, but literally, I mean, they've got Miller as well. Miller, I quite like Anthony Miller as a sort of potential sleeper this year, because if Nick Foles takes over or Trubisky finally gets good, then there's points to be had there.
It'll be Nick Foles' job. I'm certain of it. I keep thinking, all the time, just waiting for them to officially anoint him as the starter. That's all I'm waiting for now. I think Allen Robinson, 32, good value really. Could be your third, fourth pick potentially.
When you've got a quarterback that's sort of on the edge of losing their job, and then you sign someone who's actually won a Super Bowl, and he's done a good job in the past. He's the right
and
Robinson, what are they thinking, really?
And you've got to give Robinson his due again. This is another situation where it's a wide receiver who hasn't had a consistent quarterback throwing him the ball for quite a period of time, and yet he has always been fairly fantasy relevant. I think it speaks volumes of how good he really probably is, and should be if he had the right quarterback. Imagine what he'd be like if he went to Kansas or somewhere where they or Dallas.
I mean, he's a great player. I mean, so he's had Blake Bortles and Mitch Trubisky in his career.
It's not much one can say.
It's a bit like what Hopkins used to get before Deshaun Watson came along. All those horrible Texan quarterbacks.
We're just I think at 32, I think it's probably good value. You're looking at potentially your fourth pick, maybe your third. I don't think that's bad. I think that's a guy who could easily give you the 160 now. So that's very much within his frame rate. And he probably can go past it, so that makes him good value.
Yeah, he tends to catch deeper balls rather than a lot of passes. But he is really good. I mean, he's a good player.
But they're chasing. But Chicago are often, that classic. They're kind of.
I think when I remind him higher up the board, can I see him going higher up the board? When I put him above, I couldn't put him up like in the Hopkins range or anything.
No, you couldn't. He's about the right place. He's about the right place.
That's why I probably don't draft him. So I'm looking for upside. Sometimes they work out, sometimes they don't.
Yeah, he's probably in about the right place of the draft board, and probably fair. But the issue lies in the minutiae detail. It's very good value if he's your third pick or fourth pick. That's okay. I can cope with it. The trouble is, as you say, it probably means that he's going to hit his numbers, but it's not going to be exciting. He hasn't got a great quarterback throwing in the ball. You are right, they're going to rely on these deeper passes with him. But the Bears are the classic Rams from a few years ago. They just need the right coach to lead them to 8-8 every season, and he'll be flying, Robinson.
I think there's a number of receivers this year in the same sort of level, like A.J. Brown, Robinson, Cortland Sutton, loads of them really that are around the same. DJ Moore, that's DJ Smith-Schuster, Beckham, all that range. They're all sort of very similar, so I don't mind picking late in that round.
No, agreed. That's very good.
Well, that's the 17 to 32 range. If you've enjoyed the video and you're still with us, leave a like, subscribe for more, and if you want to support us, buy that draft guide, and we'll see you on the next one.